Sometime around the 16th century, an alien life form landed here on Earth, and it had nothing to eat but our children. But it gets worse. It had to season them first. With fear. Like putting a lime in a Corona, because it makes it taste better only with fear and murder. You get the idea. I wish you didn't, but you do. So, the supernatural being takes the shape of whatever it is that scares the children the most. The character was brought to life by the god of so many other disgusting and vile creatures that go bump in the night, Stephen King. Or just Stephen King if you're offended by cursing, which would be weird considering you're watching a video about a clown that likes to eat children. So today we're not talking about necessarily Stephen King's book version of It as mentioned, but rather the film and TV adaptations of the character. Welcome to the Best of the Bad Guys, where I, Mike by the way, will be ranking the best of cinema's worst villains on a case-by-case basis. From the best quote, to their best kill, to their meanest moment, and today we're talking about that big tooth piece of shit, Pennywise. Starting with Pennywise's best look. For Pennywise's coolest look, you can give me all the Andy Muschietti mama-type oogie boogies you want to throw at me. You can give me the gigantic Beetlejuice worm-looking Pennywise, the far better looking of the two spider Pennywises, Bill Skarsgård's big head and way too wet lips Pennywise you want. But Pennywise has never been more frightening for me than good old Tim Curry and some regular-ass clown makeup. There's just something about the natural, haunting look of a grown man wearing those baggy yellow parachute pants that probably smell like Jason Voorhees post-Jason Takes Manhattan toxic waste bath, dipped in the sins of O.J. Simpson with a lipstick smeared on his teeth that freaks me the hell out. It's imperfect, cheap, and off-putting in all the ways that make him so frightening. So suddenly when this movie of the week regular-looking psychopath pulls out these gigantic non-human teeth or Mario's himself down a tiny pipe somewhere, it's far more frightening than someone who didn't look human to begin with. It's almost like, hey, there's this sadistic clown guy over here who wants to kill my children, but now you find out he's supernatural and can get to you anywhere, and in a realistic, fear-based way that's just far more frightening. Now how about Pennywise's best quote? Now, I really considered this next scene we're going to talk about for Pennywise's meanest moment because it is just dark and mean. In this scene from part 2 of the 1990 miniseries, John Ritter's Ben is all grown up and finally about to do tongue stuff with the woman of his dreams. You feel great for the guy, even if he is kind of Mark Wahlberging her mouth a little bit. Seriously, have you ever seen Mark Wahlberg kiss? It's like watching the worm version of Freddy Krueger and Dream Warriors trying to swallow Patricia Arquette whole. Anyway, Ben and Bev are finally making out feverishly when he looks into the mirror American Psycho Christian Bale style, only instead of checking his guns out, he realizes he's got a smidge of clown makeup on his face and mouth and that Bev is wearing clown pants and gloves. Don't get me wrong, those pants would be horrifying on anyone, not tripping balls at a JoBlo convention, but in this case he realizes he's been sucking face with his biggest fear, Pennywise himself. To make matters worse, Pennywise rears back, his makeup smudged as well, which somehow makes it feel extra gross, smiles big and says, "Kiss me, fat boy!" The invasiveness and awfulness of that moment being compounded with a fat joke is just extra cruel. I would have finished our makeout session and then never called him back. In all seriousness, as mean and freaky as this scene is, the fact that Tim Curry could deliver it in a way that was both funny, quotable, and still frightening is a tribute to why he's so damn special as an actor. Now to Pennywise's meanest moment. This one is tough. Pennywise is a real dick. You could choose between him impersonating kids' dead dads, using the severed head of recently deceased friends to communicate, or him catfishing Ben into a quick makeout session. But the thing is, when it comes to an alien that eats children, there's kind of nothing meaner than that. So the obvious moment that comes to mind is either of the two Georgie scenes. Sadly, we had to watch that kid die twice. If they make another remake, the poor kid's gonna start getting into Uncle Ben territory. And then to have Pennywise the dancing douche use Georgie's form multiple times to taunt Bill, I could see how that could easily take the cake here. Then there's this moment in It Chapter 2 when Pennywise lures the skateboard kid into the house of mirrors and makes Bill watch helplessly as Pennywise eats another child he can't save. Pennywise was again very Mark Wahlberg in fear at this moment. "Let me in your house so I can go eat this little skateboard kid right here. And Nicole, go get me a Coke. I'm an eater of worlds. Hey yo Eddie, say hi to your mother for me." Wahlberg is catching strays in this video a lot, and he doesn't deserve it. He probably does. If we're gonna go for longevity here, you could say Pennywise was as mean to Bill as anyone. But as far as a single scene goes, I will give this one to the poor little girl under the bleachers in It Chapter 2. This sweet little kid follows an Ember under the bleachers because she doesn't want to watch her brother's stupid baseball game, probably for the 5th time that week. Then she runs into Pennywise. She quickly says, "That? There's a clown under here!" before Pennywise starts crying on the spot, just like that manipulative significant other you wish your friend would leave, and she takes the bait. This poor little girl just wanted to have Pennywise get rid of the birthmark on her face that she gets made fun of for at school, and instead, he eats her face off. It just makes me really sad. Quick side note here, you could have gone here with one of the dairy massacres that we hear about throughout the movies as Pennywise's meanest moment, but we never really saw those take place for the most part. And who knows, maybe the TV series will go all those places that we really don't want to go. Here's a gnarly one for you, Pennywise's grossest moment. I like to call this one the fortune cookie f***aroo. And we're going with the original scene in the ABC miniseries. While the remake added some nice touches like severed heads floating in the fish tanks all around him, when it comes to gross out gags, I'm a practical FX over CG guy any day of the week. In this scene, the now grown up Losers Club gets together for some laughs, cocktails, and Chinese food at the restaurant from the Drake and Kendrick beef. They're having a great time until Bev opens up her fortune cookie and it explodes all over her face. A practical blood gag that you can tell startles the hell out of her in real life, and us too. Suddenly, everyone's fortune cookie starts shaking at the table, turning into little monsters of different sorts. There's a moving human eyeball, a crusty crab crawler thingy, a gigantic spider, and finally, the worst of all, an unformed baby bird with all of its goo. Who thinks of this shit? Human Centipede didn't even do baby birds inside of fortune cookies. And this was on cable TV. That was an easy one for me. The next one, not so much. Pennywise's best kill. There's not a lot of kills that actually happen on screen in this franchise because it's more about Pennywise salting his meats, as he says. I'm going to stop saying that now because I don't like the way it feels coming out of my lips. Once again, the opening sets the tone for the entire movie when a couple of homophobic douche nozzle dairy residents are beating up a gay couple outside the fair while some snot-nosed brat roots them on. Are these guys related to the Mulaney's from Halloween Kills or something? I guess at least that storyline would have made more of a point than what you did with them in the actual Halloween movie, huh, David Gordon Green? I bet that guy doesn't even finish his sandwiches. Anyway, we're off topic. After the puppy-kicking mouth breathers drop the guy into the river, he's drowning and he looks to the shore to see Pennywise hovering around like a cage fighter sizing up his opponent in round one, the same way I do the donut display case in the morning. You see his yellow eyes in the distance and it sends chills down your spine. By the time his boyfriend has found him, Pennywise is dangling him in the air before taking a shark-like chunk out of his chest. What makes the scene so cool though is not only the way Pennywise looks by this waterfront at night, but the way he chomps on his meat after the kill. That's some great sound work right there, you guys. If we had more of this Pennywise throughout the film rather than jump scare Jerry, I feel like It Chapter 2 would have been far more frightening. Now, how about Pennywise's scariest moment? What I want to say when I talk about this is just every single time Tim Curry's Pennywise was on screen. Every single time throughout the entirety of the 1990 film, every single Tim Curry appearance when he's just wearing that clown makeup is the scariest that Pennywise has ever been. To be honest, there was no one of those moments though that stood out above all others. They were all just the entirety of a great performance. And I think it's because it was more the anticipation of what he was going to do that scared me so. Showing up while this kid is being forced to shower after gym and cornering him is insanely dark, even if all he does is threaten him. Standing on the side of the road, laughing as a car drives by, digging graves, popping balloons full of blood in the library, it was always about the lead up for Tim Curry's Pennywise, again, salting the meats. The movie may have never had really the budget to make good on its threats, for which I'm almost thankful. I don't think Kid Me could have handled that. But alas, I refuse to cop out and not pick one here, so while I find Tim Curry's entire Pennywise performance to be the actual scariest thing of this franchise so far, they cut away far too often at the last moment or blur things out for any of those one scenes in particular to stand out. So I'm going to go with the movie that scared me in theaters and in Andy Muschietti's It Chapter 1. Now, while a lot of his movies relied far too heavily on CG, and this moment is a little bit guilty of that as well, but this scene in particular just shook the living shit out of me. As the Losers Club clicks through projector slides in a small dark room, the projector goes haywire and starts clipping quickly through photos. With each projector slide or zoom in to a woman with red hair's face, the screen flickers to blackness. This creates a sped up version of the good old Texas Chainsaw Massacre camera bulb gag, to almost a strobe-like effect when suddenly Pennywise pops through the screen, now gigantic, crawling quickly towards the kids as they cowered in fear. All the while, the screen still flickers between black frames and Shaq in a shoebox Pennywise as he gets closer to the camera. It conjures a literal physical reaction in me to get away from the screen. Now, a lot of you guys are going to find this moment to be very Conjuring-esque, like a lot of the other CG jump scares in these two films, but I gotta tell you, there's just something about this moment that gave me pure anxiety in the theater. I don't know if it was just the unexpected anarchy and size disproportion of big Pennywise in that little room or the way he was moving towards them or what, but all I know is that it had me completely and totally freaked out, and it was a total wear your brown pants moment for me personally. But, you know, still the true answer is every time Tim Curry was on screen in the 1990 film. Just is. You know what else is truly frightening? The amount of coffee I've had in this JoBlo coffee cup today. You can get your own devices to destroy yourself and upgrade your wardrobe right here.
Before we continue with our video, here's a reminder to click the store tab on any of our JoBlo channels and browse our collection of the latest and freshest designs in our merch store. Go get you some.
So now we've reached the most iconic moment in the Pennywise It TV series and movie adaptations, and it's got to be the scene from the 1990s Tommy Lee Wallace directed It movie. I mean, is that not the moment that you think of every single time you're walking the dog past a storm drain in your neighborhood? Hell, sometimes I'll even smell a little popcorn in the air and do a little I have to go to the bathroom shuffle to get past the gutter without Pennywise getting me, and I'm almost 40 years old. Where do you think these dad jokes come from? I chose the 1990 scene over the remake because although we all know old Wet Lips Bill Skarsgård does an amazing job as Pennywise, for me there's nothing that can beat Tim Curry in his Dollar General makeup and bloodshot eyes looking like someone gave a hobo a bottle of Jack Daniels and a bong hit. The remake had an amazingly traumatic moment when you see Georgie's arm get dismembered and then he's pulled into the gutter slowly, and admittedly far more frightening than just the slow zoom in to Pennywise in the original where he just looks like he's trying to make out with the camera. But again, CG is these other movies' enemy. The wackadoodle face they throw on Pennywise when he goes for the bite here just completely takes you out of the scene. So, what makes the original scene so iconic is that A, it's the exact thing that most of us remember when we think about Pennywise in pop culture, and it's also completely believable that a guy dressed in a clown suit would be hiding in a storm drain trying to lure children to him, especially in Florida. Whether it was in 1990 or 2024, Curry's portrayal of this clown felt all too realistic. And B, Curry switched back and forth from his charming personality to his terrifying one. The way that he gets excited when Georgie asks if they float right here will just never not give me the heebie-jeebies.
Oh yes, they float.
Now usually here's where I would discuss the best death scene for our horror icon character, but let's be honest, there really wasn't a great one in either of these adaptations. I mean, who knew that you could kill a world-eating killer clown by just calling it a butthead? And what is it, the opposite of the pink slime from Ghostbusters 2? And I think we're all kind of sick of the, hey, if you just don't believe it, it'll go away trope. Now this story is obviously years and years old, but I've always just felt that way about that. I always felt like that was sort of a cop-out ending, even when they did it in the original Nightmare on Elm Street. But nevertheless, that's the way it is. That's the way it goes. We all know that Pennywise is one of the scariest and most interesting horror icons out there, and I appreciate you guys doing this with me today. I had an awesome and terrible time digging back through these movies. Let me know down below what horror icon would you guys like to see next on Best of the Bad Guys, and also what was your favorite kill, moment, quote. I know that they'll be different from mine, and that's what makes this so fun for all of us to do together. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and until next time.
Get out! Last chance, Tosha. Get out! Get out!